The schedule this week will be similar to what we did after the last Monday night game. We'll push our itinerary back tomorrow with the players, and try to give them enough time from the game we just played last night prior to getting ready for this week's game. I said afterwards it was a big win. It was important for us in a step in one of the key goals that we put forth every year, and we'll move our preparations here to Carolina. Any questions?
Sean, are you surprised that there's been so much, backlash over your decision to help Breeze get that record last night, when a lot of teams in similar situations probably would have done the same thing?
I don't think there's been a lot of backlash, really. I mean, I'm not, there's probably been 2, maybe 3 articles, and so I think, look, I said last night, you're going to make decisions, and people will write what they want after the fact, and so you go with your gut, and I felt like it was the right decision last night, and this morning I feel like it was clearly the right decision. So I felt overwhelmingly that most people that are involved in this game, and that know a little bit about this game probably felt the same way. And listen, great thing about our game is you can have an opinion about it. So anyway, I felt that it was a minority. Go ahead.
I know that once bitten, twice shy isn't your philosophy in football, but last year in a similar situation going in like this, Malcolm Jenkins got hurt, Jimmy Graham got hurt. Does that color your thinking into how you're going to play?
Yeah, it's a good question. I know I'm twice shy when the ball comes near me on the sidelines because I've been bitten. But I think we just got to be smart. We're also playing well with some momentum, and I think a lot of things each year is different. It factors in, so we'll look at that closely, and I think it's a good question.
What happened with Lance? I mean, played a little bit and then
it's just what it appeared. He had strained it a little during the week of practice. Felt like it came around. Treatment coming up to the course of the game, we felt pretty good about it, and it's kind of funny. Not a funny injury, but it happened on a play where he had just eluded 2 tacklers and was kind of extending himself, and all of a sudden went down. I kind of knew right away. So basically, he tweaked it again, and for a receiver, it's pretty significant.
Will you take some kind of punitive action? I know you addressed it last night about the whole Pierre Thomas thing. You aren't very happy about that.
Yeah, but whatever we do will be between us and not for you.
You have a dedicated scoreboard watcher, and how much does that play in effect how you handle Sunday?
I don't know. Last year we tried to go that route of paying attention to the game. One of the challenges always is your roster to begin with. You guys know that we've sat players before, and it's always hard because you really don't have enough. It's not preseason where you have 80. You only have 53, and yet we'll try to do what we feel like is best for the team. Generally, the stadiums are pretty good about that, though. Where you typically see. You don't always have audio, but you typically see what's going on.
Hey, Sean, as far as Drew and having this record and keeping it, does fairness enter into it at all? And when you feel like he's worked so hard, he deserves the opportunity to stay ahead of Tom Brady or anything like that, or is it just purely if we're up and San Fran's up big, then get him out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not really aware of the distance or the space between the two, and I'm probably better off not knowing. But that being said, though, I think we've got to do as we keep playing here, and the playoffs are close. How do we put ourselves in the best position to play well and put ourselves in an opportunity to try to win a championship? And that's not always what's popular. 2 years ago in '09, a ton of people in this room criticized us for resting players at Carolina, and it was what we needed to do as a team. And so you make decisions and you try to make them with the right. They're not always right either. You try to make them with the right things that help your team. And last night was one of those situations. This upcoming game will be one of those situations, and it's part of what we do. I mean, it's part of coaching and it's part of sport.
How much does being hot going into the playoffs really matter in your opinion?
Well, I think it varies per team. I mean, I think we're playing better football right now. I think it's important because it's allowed us to win a division. We've won a handful of games in a row now. But that was the same topic 2 years ago that we kept hearing about. So, I think it varies with teams. We've seen teams last year. You've seen Green Bay play games at the end of the year that they needed to win in order to get in the playoffs, and then won on the road. And then the year before that, we had lost 3 games, and then won the next 3. I think certainly as a coach, you want to be healthy and you want to feel like you're beginning to play good football and playing good football, and you also want to be rested. I mean, there are a lot of things you want, but when you get into the postseason, it's single elimination. It's different. It's you gotta. We obviously found that out last year and didn't play well and lost in the first round. So we're focused right now on this week's job. I think that's the best way to approach it, and it's served us well in the past.
Decide later on about Ingram's status, but could you talk about what Ingram being out and then Ivory stepping in, what it's kind of done for his game? He's going to get more rhythm and more.
He's been able to get the touches, and Mark's improving, but it's one of the things that's helped us. The depth at that position, I think, has made us a better team. It was one of the things we talked about as a goal of ours coming off of last year, and Chris had some good tough runs last night again. We felt the rushing statistic was going to be important again. It was. Third downs I mentioned, the turnover for a touchdown. There are a number of things. Looking at going back at it, our punter was outstanding, late in that game with field position. The big kickoff return. There were just it was a good team win. So, those are all things that were important for us.
Sean, obviously Jimmy Graham's potential was no secret in-house coming into this season, but does it surprise you at all that he's put together this Pro Bowl season, maybe a record-breaking season, as much as he's done?
I don't know. I think we saw last year, Mike, we saw the last third of the season, his growth, and it happened pretty quickly. I mean, his development was rapid. I think his work ethic, he's smart, it's important to him. There are a lot of things that you don't know exactly how a player is going to be once you draft him, and I think those other intangibles that we always try to put a handle on in the scouting process, and it's not an exact science, but in his case, those other things, aside from his athleticism, his height and speed and all those other things, it's a credit to how important it is to him, and he's worked extremely hard at it.
You imagine I assume he will get the nod today that he's one of those players that'll really appreciate a first-timer on this team and a guy who's...
Yeah, I think his story is such that is pretty special, and absolutely.
Hey, Sean, I want to go back to last night. Did you hear from anybody on the other sidelines, any criticism? Mike Smith or anybody?
No.
Sean, last night, Drew told a great story about how in pregame a child came up who was yelling at him that the only reason he came was to see Drew break the record. Are you still amazed at this day how much ownership the fans have for your organization and for Drew Brees?
Oh, it's been a great relationship. It's special. It's unique. The timing of when he arrived. There's a lot of symbolism in where he was in his career, where this city was. It's pretty amazing, and he's such a hard worker, and he's such a great teammate and you know, I think his leadership ability transcends just the New Orleans Saints team and into this region. I think it's pretty obvious, and so it was pretty special last night for the fan base to share in that accomplishment, and I mean, you know, like I said afterwards, after the game, the thing that's exciting is that the book's only halfway done. You know, he's got a lot of good football ahead of him, and as a coach, you know, you just hope to have those opportunities to coach players like that.
Have you ever stopped and thought, even after you won the Super Bowl, about this guy could have been playing in Miami? He could have taken a city that was put together as opposed to a city that's tried to get put back together. You ever thought about that over your time of being the coach here?
No, I mean, the only time that thought came up is when he was actually on his visit here, and we were an hour away from the complex, 2 hours behind schedule, and I wrote this that, you know, I felt like I needed just to drive him to the airport right then and let him get on the plane to Miami. I mean, I think we were in a mode where we were trying to sign players and celebrate little things because we were just getting started, you know, and we were looking for any type of momentum, and so his visit was important, and yet it was, you know, it was a challenging time because of when it took place, and we I think all of us felt it was, you know, not a long shot, but we felt like we had to do a real good job to get in the game. So, but I don't know that we've gone back or reflected back on what could have been. I mean, I think that.
I guess in an appreciation aspect.
Absolutely, though. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just from a standpoint of, it's the thing that's interesting about our game is, you know, the signing of players, the drafting of players, when components come together to make up a team, and you know, what wins in our league. You know, those are, I think, important things that we try to pay attention to, and I think clearly he's someone that gets that and understands that, because for him, it's still most about winning and his teammates and being a good teammate, and I think all those other things are things that come as a result of, and certainly I think the accomplishment last night is more meaningful because, I mean, there was a lot of things that made it more meaningful, but it comes on a team that's won 12 games right now. They're having success, and it happened in a game where, you know, we were able to win the division.
Do you think the accomplishment should garner Drew Brees the MVP?
Yeah, fortunately, I mean, I'm a coach, and I don't have to, every time, look, we're biased, man. We're so slanted. You know, we sit in our offices all day long, and so, you know, the thing I said earlier this month is we've seen some great quarterback play this season, and you know what? That's the tough thing about. It's a tough thing really about today. One of the hard things about today is later on is the day they announce the Pro Bowl, and so guys are excited, and there's some disappointment, and you know, those are some of the challenges you deal with as coaches. You know that what you hope to be able to do is be the first one to inform the player so he doesn't read about it from someone else who's gotten it, and we'll do that. But you know, we got a lot going here, and fortunately we're having some success and putting some consistency together, and we're talking about something, an accomplishment like what we had last night with Drew's record in the text of winning games as well. I think that's important.
Sean, what about your thinking going forward? Like with Drew, okay, he's going after that record and all, like you were just speaking about. That's one decision about not to
Yeah.
But then you got Vilma.
But see, here's the thing. I'm not going to really get into. No, I know. I'm not going to get into any of it. I appreciate the question, but rather than tell you one thing and do the other, like I mentioned last night, I'd just rather wait. And there's a few things, you know, my instincts, no different than a year ago, are, you know, this is an important game for us, and yet, you you know, we'll take all those things into consideration.
Sean, you talked a little bit about Graham before, but do you have a moment from his 2 years here that's special and different, sort of told you a lot about Graham?
I don't know if there's a specific moment. I think first impression was strong, second impression, and then what we saw as a rookie was real strong. I mean, it's been consistent. He reminds me a lot of Jason Witten, his personality. And he's a lot like him in that he's eager to please, he's smart, he's tough. His personality reminds me a lot of Jason. And he wants to get better. He'll stay after practice. He's talented. He can run. I mean, you know, and I think that he's been very consistent. So I don't know that there's one moment, though.
How much pride does this team take in having a lot of Pro Bowl selections that speak to the success of this team as a whole?
Yeah, I think that you know, it's that day though where the player gets recognized by his peers, and generally it comes with winning. In other words, it's usually been the norm, which I think is a good thing.
Sean, there's a belief by some coaches that when you get into the playoff atmosphere, what refs allow in coverage in terms of jostling of receivers changes a little bit. They don't want to throw their flag as much because they don't want to make that call that might be a little bit questionable. With the calls over the middle, particularly against safeties on hits, do you expect any of that might change come playoff time?
I think it'd be the same.
How much harder will it be, knowing that Green Bay did it last year? How much harder will it be to do what you did 2 years ago if you don't have the bye?
Well, it'd be a game different. I mean, literally, it'd be a game different in that when you have the bye, you play one less game. So it'd be a game different.
But, you know, physically, mentally, the whole having to go on the road.
I mean, I don't know. If you just pulled up the last 20 years, you'd probably find that if you researched it at all and did a little homework, you'd probably find that it's split, you know, as far as 3 games or 4 games. So I don't know that. Certainly, you try to put yourself in the best position you can, but that'd be a good little project for you.
I've done it already.
What's the numbers?
5 of the last 7 NFC champions have been at home for the championship game.
That's not the question.
But
That's not the question. The question was 4 games or 3.
Sure,
What's the
Green Bay's done it, the
question?
Giants.
4 games or 3?
Green Bay's done it, the Giants did it, you didn't do it. I'm just asking you.
No, 4 games or 3. That was the question.
No,
I want to make
3
sure I'm answering it.
3 in the playoffs before the Super Bowl.
3, then you're saying, yeah.
Right, 3 games before you get to the Super Bowl.
I bet it'd be split in the last 10 or 15 years. So it's almost split right now, based on what you're saying.
No.
All right, we'll compare notes. How's that? And tomorrow, we'll just see what the numbers are. I don't. Obviously, if you play one less game, there's one less game to play. You know, you're playing 4. Green Bay played 4 last year. We played 3 the year before that. I don't know what Pittsburgh. But the point being is, to answer it, it would be one less game or one more game. So when you say how more difficult, I'd say one more game.
Sean, one other thing about Graham. There have always been guys who are great athletes at that position. Gonzalez, obviously, former basketball player as well. Are there more of them, however, now? Because it seems like that position with Gronkowski.
I think this. So I think one of the things that's challenging is projecting the position, because I think we're seeing some spread offenses in college, maybe with more receivers than tight ends. I don't think necessarily because all of a sudden you found a success in Antonio Gates, for instance, who played basketball, and our league somewhat can be trendy, and then you start looking at all the basketball programs. I'm sure there's 4 or 5 stories that weren't successful of teams trying to I think you're constantly paying attention to the talent pool, and whether it's typically college football, and then but yet you're still not disclosing any other way where you can identify what you're looking for. But I mean, the position, I think the importance of the position exists no different than it did 10 years ago. I think it's significant, though, in that it helps you to control the middle of the field in your passing game and give you a dimension to your passing game that can help.
Sean, are you aware or surprised at all that you've actually never had a skill position player from this team make the Pro Bowl? Or does that make perfect sense to you, the way you guys spread it?
I'm probably not aware of it. It's hard. It's hard sometimes with the numbers as they get spread out.
Sean, can you give us an idea basically of how it'll work, the discussion with Drew on playing time, and if, his input, if he wants to play a lot, or?
It's Jim's question. I mean, in fairness, right now, we haven't decided any of that, and we'll just keep you guys posted. Easy enough? All right, thanks.